Hello everybody, Michael here again. We are playing some more games with our Evo Aggro deck, and this is going to be another post-commentary, just like usual. This will be probably more my style of thing. Apologies again if you are more akin to live commentary, but this is the way that I do best, and this is what I'm most comfortable with. So I mean, if you absolutely for sure need me to have live commentary, then leave a comment below, and I'll definitely try more to have live commentaries rather than post-commentaries, but be forewarned, the videos might be a little bit slower or a little bit longer, sorry. So, we are playing another mono black. I've been encountering a lot of mono black lately, I'm not sure why. It was either that or Boros I encounter, I'm finding, but let us get going, and we are on the play. So this is a pretty decent starting hand for us, so we don't want to mulligan this. We have a way to evolve Experiment 1, we have access to 3 mana, we have a pump in the form of Rebel Maka, and we have an activator for Experiment 1 as well as just another creature overall in the form of Rakdos Cackler. So we're just going to jump out Experiment 1 right away. Let's see what happens next. Hopefully it doesn't get removed. And we have another Clan Defiance. I draw Clan Defiance like almost every single game, like very early too, and not when I want to have it in my hand. And I think I'm only running one or two of them, so I'm really surprised by that. I might just move it to a sideboard option and try and get some more creatures in here, but we'll see. Attacking for 2, thanks to the evolve from Rakdos Cackler. Actually, never mind. This is not the mono black. This is the Rakdos deck. It is playing a very similar style to mono black, but it's with the influence of having some red splashed in there. It has access to stuff like Dreadbore, so definitely sucks for us, even more removal than just typical mono black, but you know, we make do, and there's some close games. Oh, excuse me. So we got another mana, which is nice. Ideally, we want to have about 4 mana. This deck can run effectively off of 4 mana. Oh, excuse me. And then we got a Devour Flesh. We'd rather get rid of our Cackler than our Experiment 1, so we sacrifice that and get some life for that. But sadly, we only get 2 damage in. But better than nothing, so. And at least our Experiment 1's still there. Oh, excuse me. So right here, I think he might Dreadbore us here. I think he plays some sort of removal spell. Yeah, he Dreadbores us, and I really, the only creature we pretty much have is Experiment 1. We want to save Rubble Bolt for a pump, so I decided to just Burst of Strength, Experiment 1, and then take off the 2 counters to regenerate him. Just so he can get on the field, and as long as we can draw some other creatures, it shouldn't be too hard to get him back up again and evolve him, so not terrible. Get another Rebel Bolt Maka. So now, since we have 2 of them, I decide that next turn I'm going to probably just play the Rebel Bolt Maka and evolve the Experiment 1, just as a creature. At least we need to start building some threats on the board, just get rid of as much removal as we can out of his hands, and then hopefully we'll still have stuff surviving on the board. That's pretty much what I was hoping. He sadly thought seizes us. He is playing quite a heavy on removal both in hand and out of hand, as you'll see in just a moment. So he's not really worried about Clan Defiance, and this is one of the reasons why I might remove it, because playing it, I'm not playing a Devotion deck. I'm playing more of an aggressive deck, so I really don't like it as a dead draw in my hand. And it turns out to be a dead draw more often than not. There are certain circumstances where I can deal with stuff like Night Veil Spectre, but even so, I'd still rather just have a creature or something like that. And as you can see, he has 2 Thought Seizes, so he uses both of them to get rid of both Rebel Bolt Makas, so we're in a much worse position now that we only have 1 card in our hand, and he already knows it's not even close to a threat towards him, so we're in a little bit of a situation. We hopefully can I was just hoping to draw some more creatures. We did get a Gorkon Rampager, and I was debating on saving it for a pump, which I usually do with Gorkon Rampager because it can trample and it can usually finish off a game. But I figured because of how much removal he's playing with, I sort of want to at least try and maybe play Gorkon Rampager as just a creature, and hopefully give him some more stuff he has to deal with rather than just putting all my eggs in one basket, because he still had mana up. So even if I pumped up Experiment 1, he would easily be able to just sort of remove it, which would have been much of a problem for us. And then he gets a nice Desecration Demon, something that we always hate and really, really hard for us to deal with. So if you guys have any suggestions on how, if there's any good cards in red and green that we can actually use against Desecration Demon, I encounter this deck and this card a lot, so it's really, really tough for us to handle. Luckily, we pulled a second Gore Clan Rampager, so we can at least use one of them for Activator for evolving, as well as just another creature overall. And then we can also use the other one as a pump if we need to. Excuse me. So with our starting hand that we had, it would have been nice to have a little bit more aggression. The deck's sort of inconsistent, and again, as you can see, just against decks with a lot of removal, which just standard's so heavy with removal right now. It's just really, really hard for this deck to sort of build up and do what it needs to do. So I need to find some way to sort of have some good creatures still in there, but make it in sort of a way where it's not as susceptible to removal. I do have Ranger's Gallows and stuff like that, but you know, it's only in rare circumstances where I actually get to play it. So both of our guys are gone, sadly. We do get a Gyro Sage, and we can activate it with Gore Clan Rampager again, just as a creature itself. But, you know, by this point in the game, we're a little bit too far behind. It's at this point in the game where we definitely want to be able to put on more of the aggression rather than having a Desecration Demon hit us. I hate that card so much. 4 mana for a 6/6, and it just forces the opponent just to do anything that they don't really want to. You know, they don't want to sacrifice a creature generally, and it's just an overall extremely strong card. So I was hoping we could Clan Defiance and get rid of that Nightveil Spectre, but we would need the extra mana from a pump off of Gyro Sage. So at this point, I need to play Gore Clan Rampager, activate Gyro Sage, hopefully get a pump off and not have my Gyro Sage be removed, and then be able to Gore Clan Rampager to at least kill the Nightveil Spectre and hit him in the face for 3 damage at least. Oh, excuse me. So that was the plan. Not sure if that worked out. But if he wouldn't have Thoughtseized us double and took out both of our Rebel Makas, I think we would have a much better chance at this. Those kind of cards are sort of key in our deck, especially early on. Oh, excuse me. Like, ideally, we want to be able to play our Experiment 1s and Gyro Sages early, as well as cards such as Gorehouse Chainwalker and Rakdos Cackler to evolve them, and then be able to use those early evolve triggers to sort of further our aggression and use the Gore Clan Rampager and Rebel Belt Maka pumps to just really, really put our opponent on the defensive and just be really, really aggressive with those cards. But again, I need to find some card to protect my cards a little bit better against that early removal, and he's pulling like all the Thoughtseizes and everything like that. He's just playing heavy removal and takes out Clan Defiance, which was pretty much our plan for this turn. So that definitely sucks. So here I don't want to sacrifice a creature, of course. I think we're just fine taking the damage, and he's going to leave Desecration Demon back to block, just in case we do pull something that we need, because he knows we already have a Gyro Sage, and he's not threatened by that, but it's always the possibility that we can top deck into something. So he grabs our Rakdos Cackler, which definitely sucks because he can play it with the mana he has, since he is playing red-black. And so we're really hoping to top deck into a pump of some sort or something like that to get over Desecration Demon. And he does play it because just in case he does need a second blocker, he can use it. Because what we were supposed to do is hopefully get something that we need and just play our other Gyro Sage to use as a sacrifice. And we luckily top decked into something we need. It is a 1 extra damage, which makes it exactly lethal for us. So we play the Gyro Sage, and we were really hoping on he didn't have any removal in his hand or anything like that. Otherwise, we would have lost this. So before combat, we sacrifice the Gyro Sage we just played, leaving up our slightly stronger Gyro Sage to be able to attack. And so we can attack with both of our Gyro Sages, or both of our Gyro Sage and our Gore-Clan Rampager. Rakdos Cackler has to block the Gyro Sage, to prevent the 2 damage, because Gore-Clan Rampager just has the extra trample on top of it. Oh, never mind. We don't play it there because he blocked the Gyro Sage and we would have had 1 damage left. I think we leave it just because we didn't want to show that we had it yet. And this time we sacrificed Desecration Demon again. So, because I was fine with just taking 2 damage. I was sort of just hoping that he didn't have another removal spell for Gore-Clan Rampager. Otherwise, I know we would win. And if he didn't play another creature as well, then he would have to block with Night Veil Spectre. And even though Night Veil Spectre would prevent him from dying, and he would only go down to 1, he sort of nullifies that and tries to find an answer anyways. But luckily, that burst of strength that we get just gives us right over the edge and makes it just barely lethal. So it was a very, very nice top deck for us. And luckily, I didn't waste it on the previous turn. Excuse me, because then we would have lost this game. So I was very happy with that decision not to play it, because normally I probably would have, because I'm an eager beaver. So it's now lethal, and now he uses Underworld Connections because he has no choice, and thus he's tries to top deck an answer for it, because he still has 2 mana up, so he could potentially pull a Doomblade or something like that. But sadly he doesn't, and we luckily pull out that first game just barely, thanks to a nice burst of strength top deck. And so overall, this matchup still is not really in our favor. Again, it was sort of a top deck that won it, but again, with what he's playing, that Ranger's Gals definitely come in and taking out the Clan Defiance, because that really just doesn't help us in our deck. And I pulled that card so many times. I don't even know how. I only have 1 of them in my deck, but I seem to pull it like every single game in like the first 3 hands, which makes it completely a dead draw for us. Taking out the Gorilla Charms, because most of his creatures that he can use to block with are flying, and Gorilla Charm is meant mostly just to sort of get through the land creatures. We take out a Rubble Belt and a Gorehouse Chainwalker just to make room for the things we just put in. I figure Gorehouse Chainwalker and Rubble Belt aren't extremely needed, and we still have a couple of them in the deck just in case. And of course, we pull both Rubble Belts. I keep this hand because it's still 2 mana. We can still Burning Tree and hopefully go into something else, like a Gyro Sage or something like that, and then get some more mana and play a Rubble Belt, and hopefully we curve out, which is what I was hoping with this hand. Sadly, we missed our land drop there. Luckily, we have another turn to actually pull a land. Renegade Krasis is still nice, but we don't have the Experiment 1 Rakdos Cackler in our hand, so it makes it a little bit less effective. And we pull Bow of Nylea, missing another land drop, which definitely puts us really, really far behind. And Bow of Nylea would generally be pretty good, being able to have Death Touch and things like that, and gaining some life, just to be able to help sustain, as well as getting 1/1 counters on stuff like Gyro Sage for more mana and things like that. But we just Burning Tree. I need to get something on the board, and even though it wastes the mana, it's at least something that he has to use a removal spell on, just to sort of get some removal out from his hand to make some more room for stuff like Rubble Belt Raiders and things like that. So he sideboards in a Lifebane Zombie, which I should have expected. It's just a really, really good card against this deck. You can pretty much take out anything in my deck with it. So he takes out one of the Rubble Belt Raiders. I figured it was because he has removal in his hand, that if I do play the other Rubble Belt Raider, he can just sort of remove it from the board anyway. So he knows that playing Rubble Belt Maka is much less effective as a creature than something like Rubble Belt Raiders. So he decides to sort of take the Rubble Belt Raiders out, at least one of them. And he leaves the Renegade Krasis too, because again, that one's not much of a threat unless it has other creatures on the board with it. So we pull an experiment one, missing our another land drop, sadly. We definitely wanted to hit those lands against this types of deck as well, being against this sort of black devotion with splashing red. It's not having land, not being able to produce threats on the board is pretty much game for us. Like we need to have threats on the board, and we need to be able to produce a threat pretty much every turn, which is generally what you're hoping for with this deck, is to be able to produce just too many threats. And because it's using evolving and counters and stuff like that, those threats will generally be almost always equal in power level, and he curves out well, and he gets his Desecration Demon on turn 4, sadly. So we're already way behind. We can't do pretty much anything about it. Can't swing through, can't swing over, can't destroy his Desecration Demon. So yeah, Desecration Demon just really hurts us against this deck unless we can get our threats out before turn 4 and start swinging for a lot of damage with Rubble Belt Maka Pumps and Gore Clan Rampager Pumps. And again, we miss another land drop, sadly. So we are going to be taking quite a bit of damage. I unleashed the Gorehouse Chainwalker just to sort of get a trigger off on Experiment 1, and, Gorehouse Chainwalker as a blocker can't block either of those guys, so there's really no point in not unleashing him. And, of course, he has a second Desecration Demon, so there's pretty much nothing we can do about that. Like, if we had 2 Gruul Charms, I would be fine with using both of them, but again, since we missed our land drop, we have no way of dealing with them. So it's pretty much game there, and he's just going to be able to overrun and outrace us, especially with 2 Desecration Demons. So that's pretty much that, and we miss another land drop anyways, so we concede the game and move on to game 3. Hopefully we can get some better draws. Drawing 3-4 times and not hitting 1 land drop really sucks, but it's Magic and it happens. Even on MTGO, it's especially prevalent in my opinion. I definitely don't have very lucky draws. I was debating on bringing Mutant's Prey in to be able to fight, well, not fight, but yeah, to be able to fight Lifebane Zombie or something like that, but I figured it wasn't really worth it. We definitely don't want this hand. It's a little bit too slow, and 2 Ranger Scowl is not really what we want. We keep this hand because we can at least do something like Gyre Sage into Burning Tree and hopefully into something else. We could always turn to Burning Tree into Gyre Sage, but we definitely want sort of to get the evolve trigger off of Gyre Sage thanks to Burning Tree entering the battlefield after. So we want to sort of spread them out a little bit. And he is deciding whether he wants to mulligan to 6. I think he does go to 6. Yes, he did go to 6, but I think he stays at 6. So we're both at 6 cards, and we play the Gruul Guildgate off just so we can get that out of the way. And then we can turn to Gyre Sage. So he doesn't shock anything in, so no first turns Thoughtseize. That's always nice. We get a Rakdos Cackler, that's always good, so we can even use that as an activator for Gyre Sage as well. It's just another threat. So I figured, I want to try and race him because, again, that's the best thing to do against this deck, especially with stuff like that, with the amount of removal he has. So I just pretty much decided to get as many threats out there as I can, hopefully he doesn't pull what he needs, and hopefully I can pull what I need. That's pretty much what I was hoping for. I don't think there was any other way that you can sort of do that against this deck. Just because this deck's very proactive, it's not very reactive. So dealing against a deck like Mono Black, and this deck is essentially Mono Black, it's just splashing red for certain cards. It's definitely hard to be proactive against this deck, especially when it's a creature-based proactive deck. If it was straight burn deck, then that would be fine, but considering I have to attack through creatures and stuff like that, it's a little bit harder. So we're starting to get mana flooded, pulling land when we don't really want land. We want to start getting more threats on the board. So don't really want to attack yet. I didn't want to lose one of my creatures just to Nightvale Spectre. and then have the other one removed by like Dreadbore or something like that. So I have no choice but to take the 2 damage. I think he pulls a land. No, he pulls a Gyre Sage. So that one isn't, that one isn't too necessary for us, but it forces us to pull another land rather than a creature. I would definitely have rather had the Gyre Sage than the Mountain. So we get a little bit mana flooded in this game, and not having a fairly decent start definitely sucks. So I might make room for more creatures just to have more threats out there, just because of all the removal in Standard. This is a creature-based deck, but if I don't have any ways to get more threats out on the board, it definitely runs into some problems in that sense. So we let the Nightveil Spectre attack again, and at this point we hopefully can try and just race him, I'm hoping, pulling some Gorklan Rampagers or something like that to be able to pump, and he's not playing as many threats either, but sadly, since we're playing mono black, he has stuff like Grey Merchant to get back in the game, and even just a Nightveil Spectre and Grey Merchant still 5 damage to us, and he gains 5 life. So just really, really tough matchup for us. It's pretty much either race and win, or get to the point where we get blocked out and our creatures can't get through his guys. So we did pull a pump, but sadly it doesn't really do much. We can attack and then run over his Grey Merchant with one of our guys, but he doesn't block and just takes the damage. So I decided to hopefully just try and race him and get back in the game, and I even up the life totals a little bit, 12 to 11, so we're in much better shape again. But also, sadly, we have to definitely pull into a Gorklan Rampager, or at least something to deal with the creatures he has. So he attacks with both, so at this point he's racing us as well, and sadly he does have a second Grey Merchant, which Grey Merchant chaining pretty much ensures the game for you, especially against a deck like mine where you can't really counter it or anything like that. So it pretty much ends up being 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He thought seizes just in case I had something to sort of take out his devotion, I think. But, now that he knows the way is clear, he plays out his second Grey Merchant and doing exactly lethal this. Oh no, he doesn't. He plays my Rebel Belt Raiders. Can't remember. Oh yeah. That's pretty much it though. Because I pull another land. Yeah, so we got mana flooded that game, and not having a solid start definitely hurt us in the long run. So I need to just sort of probably reevaluate some of the deck and figure out a good way to sort of reach into mid-game, I think. It's a little bit too reliant on my starting hand, I'm finding. If I get a really good starting hand, I can crush my opponent. If I don't get a good starting hand, then it's a lot tougher. Playing against a lot of creature-based decks, this deck does well against playing a lot of heavy removal decks, such as Mono Black, or, Esper Control or something like that. It's a lot tougher, but I mean, again, as you can see, I have won games against Mono Black, and this deck does stand a chance against it, so I just probably need to do a little bit of tweaking here and there, and I think I can get to a point where I can definitely beat out Mono Black more often than losing, at least. But sadly, the third game we got mana flooded, and again, it happens. But again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll be sure not to record a Mono Black game for you guys again for the third game, just sort of give you guys a little bit of variance, and I definitely look forward to showing that to you guys as well. So thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.